What's up, guys? It is your girl Sarah from Sarah Styles here. In today's live video, I'm so excited to have Becky Park. She is a side hustle reseller, full-time teacher, has two little kids, and then also does reselling social media on the side. And last year made $50,000 doing it. So I know it's crazy, it's wild. I'm so excited to have you on the channel. We're gonna talk kind of, just balancing it all. You kill it on Poshmark is your main platform, but I think you're venturing out. So maybe we'll talk about that as well. And anything else that comes up today. If you guys do have questions, feel free to drop those down in the comments. As we wait for people to hop on, if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit more, tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah. Well, hi guys. My name is Becky Park, and we were just talking beforehand. Sarah thought I was like an Oregon hipster, but I'm actually in the Midwest. I'm like a little bit south of Chicago. I live on a campus town. It's actually where my husband and I went to school, and we just kind of stuck around and never left. But yeah, like Sarah said, I teach high school choir. We are doing hybrid learning right now. So I go to school twice a week, basically to like not see any kids. Like none of them come who are supposed to come and see me. So I go there for some reason. I don't know why, but I actually can get a lot of work done there since there are no, distractions of being home. But yeah, so I teach, and I've been reselling now for like a little over 3 years, I think. And I did start on Poshmark, and finally got over my fear of eBay and have been listing on eBay, Mercari. I started my own Shopify store. I'm on Citizen. So I'm just kind of trying out all of the things, seeing what works, what sticks, and just kind of going for it.
So you started on Poshmark, right?
I did, yeah.
And you started 3 years ago. I haven't followed from the beginning, but I know that you take like a lot of donations, and kind of will sell anything, which I love. I love reselling because there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason your channel has grown and has such good viewership is you show a different side of, I'll take anything, I'll sell anything. I do this on top of my side. It's not my full-time job. I don't always find all the bolo brand, like you show a different aspect to it, which I really love in the community as well, because there's so many different ways that you can do it. So how did you kind of get into reselling, and why did you pick Poshmark, or did it just fall into your lap?
Yeah. I started on Poshmark simply because I was cleaning out my own closet, my husband's closet. I had tried Plato's Closet before. They don't give you very much. And a lot of the brands that I was trying to bring them, I was a teacher, my husband's a teacher, and they were like, these brands are too mature for us. So they wouldn't even take like my J. Crew, Banana Republic, that sort of thing. So I literally, they were like, no. So I literally I just like Googled like, where can I sell my clothes? Because some of it was like still brand new, or, and I found Poshmark. And so I just like on a whim tried it. And my brother had told me about it. My brother was one of those people that like, he would like look at it. I don't think he ever like bought anything, but he was always lured in by, the ability to score like luxury brands at a fraction of the price. So he told me about it, which is why some people will DM me on Instagram and they'll be like, I found a profile of you on Poshmark, but there are like no listings in the closet, but it's your picture. And I'm like, yeah, that's because like I signed up for it. And then I realized my brother asked me to use his referral and I forgot to. So then I like started a new closet so that I could like use his referral. So there are like two Becky Parks on the Poshmark app, but one of them is really me. And the other one is also me. It's just empty. But anyway.
Can you get rid of profile?
You probably can get rid of it. I used a different email for it. So I was like, well, shoot, I'll just start a new closet.
I just know from Poshmark, from like their IPO and some other videos and people talking about the amount of users that aren't actually active, but Poshmark use it as their, millions of user numbers. So I'm just wondering like how many Becky Parks are there out there that, have, closets started and then just never ever look at them again. How funny.
Yeah. No, I'm sure there's a good amount, but like one is literally like the same exact profile picture as the one that I have now. And I think people would like DM me like concerned, like, I think someone's trying to steal your identity or something. And I'm like, no, that's me. Like I just didn't do what my brother asked me to. Yeah. So I think it was like the combination of, needing to get rid of stuff. I had heard about it from my brother. So then when I came across it on Google, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard about this. Like my brother's already on it. Like I'll just give it a shot. I didn't know reselling was a thing. And so I just, tried it. And then I listed a few things, maybe like 2 weeks after listing something, like one of my husband's shoes sold. And then, I don't know, I was hooked, and I just like tried to like find out more information. I was like trying to find like blogs or anything. And then I discovered YouTube, and I don't feel like up until that point, I had never really watched YouTube the way that I watch YouTube now. Like I would go to every once in a while, or people would send me like funny clips or be like, oh my gosh, like listen to this song.
Mhm.
I like I didn't understand the concept of like religiously following someone's YouTube channel. Like that was so weird to me. Like my students would talk about how they like would follow these vloggers, and I'm like, what do they do? Like what is their channel about? They're like, they like talk about their dog and like what ice cream they ate. And I'm like, and you watched that? And they're like, yeah, it's like my favorite thing. And I'm like, wait, I'm like, are they famous? They're like, no, they're just like a normal person in Idaho. And I'm like, I okay. Like it just
I'm right there with you. And I'm still very much that way, even though I have a YouTube channel and obviously I watch others, but it still just blows my mind that I'm like, why does someone want to watch what I bought at a thrift store? Like
yeah, I mean,
it's just like
every
mind
day,
blowing to me.
yeah. My husband always is like, why? I don't get it. Hi, drama free mama. She said, I love your YouTube handle name. I've been selling for like about 3 years, like a little bit over 3 years. But yeah, so that's how I got started. And then, yeah, I found YouTube, and I just started watching a bunch of YouTube videos, exactly those kinds of videos, like people thrifting and showing what they bought, showing how much they were making. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, people are making a living doing this, and it's so fun, and I just I have the type of personality that like when I get into something, I just go in 100%. So I was all in, and my husband, who had watched me go through many phases of my life, was like, hold on. Like he's like, wait, let's just make sure, like, and I was like, don't worry, like it'll be fine. And next thing he knows, like he's lost his dining room and guest room to close, but we're good now.
But
Yeah.
you're making money because my husband, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, does your husband support it? And as long as, I mean, I went all in from the beginning too. I did upcycle before, so we kind of saw that since we met. But as long as like there was money coming in,
Yeah.
he was like, I don't, when I brought in stuff from the thrift store and now I do liquidation, he's like, cool, that's like cha-ching, as long as you get it listed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was never really a problem for me. So were you a thrifter before you started? Because you said you started selling your own stuff, and then did you get into thrifting, or had you already been a thrifter?
I would thrift here and there. Like my husband and I like to go thrifting together sometimes. And we never thought like that you could buy this stuff and sell it to other people for more, like we would just do it for ourselves just because like we thought it was fun. And like I still have stuff in my closet that I remember I thrifted like probably over a decade ago that we just, like no brand, like no name brands, just like it was cute and whatever. So we did a little bit of it. And I feel like too, like growing up, we didn't have much. Like my dad's a pastor, my mom worked for the post office, and they didn't believe in debt. So we just like lived very frugally. And I never had like new clothes and stuff like that. So it was very much like I was always getting hand-me-downs. And I just saw like the value of clothes as far as I didn't understand the people who were like, I wore this once and I'm done with it. I was like, what? So I think I just understood like clothes can have a longer lifespan than what a lot of people give them. Like my kids wear a lot of hand-me-downs. I give people a lot of our kids' clothes hand-me-downs, so we're all about trying to extend the life of clothes. And I think that's how we were raised too. But we didn't do a whole lot with thrift stores. Just every once in a while we'd go for fun.
But you'd been in them. And I don't understand, because our kids are, I think, roughly around the same age.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a teenager too. But I don't know how people afford children who don't thrift. Like kids' clothes, I went to Old Navy and I was like, okay, Old Navy. My son, I have a 3-year-old boy, and it's really hard to find thrifted clothes in that age because they all have knees. There it's just no. So I was like, okay, he needs new pants. Yeah, I'm going to have to buy new pants. And I was like, I'll go to Old Navy. It's reasonable on clearance. And the pants were still $10. And I'm like, it's going to cost me $100 to get him a pair of pants for the week. I don't know how. I'm used to like the dollar,
Yeah. And on top of that, my husband is really good at like scouring the internet for deals. Like he's a deal hunter. So he's always forever like sending me links and being like, these pants are $1.97 at Gap. Like, like we're going to get 4 pairs of them for the kids. I'm like, okay. So he's really good at that. Yeah. We've never been people that can like buy like luxury brands or like, I don't know. I think a lot of it just has to do with how we were raised, like we just cannot justify, even though like now we have the means, but like, Yeah, like one time my husband went to Vegas for like his bachelor party, and one of his friends like made a ton, like I don't know what happened, but he like made a ton of money, and they like went to Louis Vuitton and bought me a bag, and he like came home and I was like, return it. Like I was like, I'm too scared to go out in public with this. Like I'm gonna spill spaghetti all over it. Like it's too stressful. I don't want it. Like I really was so like thankful for the gesture, but it's like I'm gonna ruin it. Like I can't, I can't appreciate that stuff. So yeah, but it's
I'm
good to like, find it, flip it, move it around. Yeah.
Well, and as a reseller now too, if I find something, like I found a pair of Sorel boots in my size this week and I tried them on, and my husband was like, but how much do those go for? And I was like, I know, like, do I really need Sorel boots? Right.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about reselling too is I was like, well, I'll just get rid of my other Sorel
Yeah.
boots that I have that I don't want anymore, sell those and get a new, it's like ever changing type of thing. But I would have done the same thing with a Louis Vuitton.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I could not.
I grew up, I'm one of 6 kids. My dad's a police officer. So we grew up, at our means. And even now, like we could afford things. And I'm like, but why would you buy it at the thrift store, right? All right. So let's get into like some time management. You're on Poshmark. And we'll get into, I think, a little bit more what you're venturing out to into this year, because I know you're kind of changing some things up and doing things a little bit differently. But time management, you are a teacher, which I did student teaching, and I was like, nah, I'm good. So I know it is so much work. It's more than a 9 to 5. Yes, you get summers off, but it is so much more than a 9 to 5. You're usually bringing work home, and you're doing choir, so I'd assume you guys have like presentations, or probably not presentations. What's the right word? Like not tournaments. What is the right word for
competitions or performances?
There you go.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and getting ready. So, how do you find the time to resell and YouTube on top of, and you have little kids, on top of your day-to-day stuff?
Yeah. So I feel like people probably get sick of me talking about this because I try to mention it as often as I can. But for me, I have like the best partner in my husband. I get a lot of DMs from people that are like, I'm doing something wrong. Like I can't manage to like keep the house and stay on top of my reselling and work my job and like pay attention to my kids. Like, I don't understand how you do it. Like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. Like there are only so many hours in the day, but my husband is so helpful. So like he doesn't necessarily help with reselling related tasks, but he cooks, he cleans, he like watches the kids, he does so many things so that I don't have to do them. Like cooking and cleaning, I mean, he's better at it than me too, but also like he takes it upon himself to do it so that I have that time to do reseller related tasks or like to make, YouTube videos and stuff like that. And if I didn't have him for a husband, and if whoever I was married to expected me to play that more like traditional, wife role, I wouldn't be able to. And I think that's where I get a lot of the DMs are people are like, I don't understand how I can do this. And I'm like, my husband just helps out a lot. And they're like, well, that's the difference. Like my husband doesn't do those things. I'm expected to do those things. And I'm like, yeah, so it's no wonder that you're finding it difficult to find that time. So, I mean, that's really the big secret, if you will. Like, I just have really good help. And that help is my husband. Also, I am a big proponent for like, I do everything like pretty mediocrely. I feel like I have a pretty perfectionist like personality, but I've learned to throw a lot of that out the window. Like good, like if it's good enough, like if it's done, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I used to be really like crazy about steaming everything before I photographed it, like no wrinkles. I mean, now I just like throw it up on the hanger. Like people will comment all the time in my What's Sold videos. They'll say, how did you sell those pants with like that huge wrinkle down? That I'm like, because people know they got an iron at home. Like looking at the, it's fine. Like maybe I get like a little bit less for it. I don't know, but I don't know. It's like those two things, like just not getting so caught up in like things being perfect and then having really good help. And I think the longer you do something, the better and faster at it you get too, right? So like listing did used to take forever when I first started, and photographing and like editing my YouTube videos, like everything used to take so long. But the more you do it and kind of flex those muscles, it just gets easier and faster with time. So you're accomplishing more, but in the same amount of time, you know? So
Right.
you just keep at it and it gets easier, it gets faster, it gets better.
I'm going to pop into the chat really quick. We just have we're talking about sourcing stuff. Thank you guys for joining for sure. If you do have questions specific for Becky, feel free to drop them down below. And Becky, if you keep an eye and see a question, you've already done it once, but if you help me moderate, because sometimes I get so involved in our conversation. But there we were talking a little bit. I think the husband thing is I'm a huge proponent of outsourcing. And so you're not necessarily outsourcing, but kind of in a way, like we have a cleaner because I'm not good at it. I hate it. And I'm like, I could spend 2 hours cleaning the house while my 3-year-old is destroying it. Or I could spend 2 hours listing and making money to pay for the house cleaner. And I would much rather, I mean, during COVID times, it's been a little different. But I think outsourcing and finding, there is only, like you said, so much time in their day. And if your husband doesn't do it, then you need to find other ways to get it. When someone does it all, they don't.
No.
There's not enough time. Something has to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want people to think that I'm like better than them, or like, I don't, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the mindset that people have. And people come into my DMs with such a sense of like guilt, or such a sense of like, ugh, I'm not good enough. And I'm like, no, like you're doing great. It's just everyone's circumstances are so different. Like a lot of single moms will reach out and I'm like, no. Like you cannot compare apples to oranges here. Like it's, you are dealing with what you're dealing with and you're trying to find time to do all these different things. Like you have to show grace to yourself. Yeah, for sure. And outsourcing, that's like, I've just been on the hunt for like, what else can I give away? Like what else can I stop doing myself? And that's the only way to scale, really, because you only have so many hours in the day, and you can like get better and faster, but at the end of the day, like you're going to run out of time. So you have to start letting go of some of these things that anyone can do, or maybe not even anyone, but you train someone to do it. And then you can tackle some of these other bigger projects that you're excited about.
And I think I want to come back to that because I'm interested in if you are outsourcing and how minus that your husband does. But I do want to Drama Free Mama, she is a single mom. I keep a schedule that seems pretty much to people, but as a single mom, I have an account for every hour, 7 to 10 every day. And it's hard, especially when you have children. You try to plan your day, and then they don't usually let that happen. And so you totally have to have grace and just let it, do what you can when you can. And I want to touch, but I don't think you come across on your channel at all that you can do it all. You don't at all. And that's one of the reasons that I really do enjoy your channel, because I think you are very transparent. And I love your like somewhat sold videos. You're like, meh, it was a rough week. And that's, and so it's not just, I'm always killing it. I have rough weeks. Here is my, I think that's part of the reason that you probably have grown on YouTube so well, because you're showing that part of reselling that a lot of people can connect to. Hooray for awesome husbands, Stitch and Marvin. She's a reseller. Her husband does all her YouTube. I wish mine did that. She just does the video. Like she just does the talking, and then he does all the back end stuff that I hate. Allie, my husband grocery shops, cleans, does laundry, helps with our daughter. It's awesome.
Awesome.
My husband cooks a lot, thankfully. I hate cooking. It's awful.
I hate the idea that you put so much time into something, and then like I watch my brother eat like 5 minutes and it's gone. And I'm like, do you know that took like a lot of Korean cooking, a lot of like stews. I'm like, like our mom slaved over that for like 12 hours and you are done in 5 minutes. Like it is so upsetting to me.
Yeah, that's perfectly put. That's how I am too. That I'm like, it's never worth my time. Nothing that I've ever made has been worth the outcome. I will gladly eat someone else's 12 hours worth of effort. But for me, and I just don't enjoy it. I loved your videos about not sweating the small stuff, Becky. Put me in check. I think that's very true. I think a lot of times I hear too in the community, they're perfectionists and the listing has to be this way and the photo has to be this way. And that's why they can't outsource. you kind of have to let someone let go,
Yeah.
or then you can't get it all done, right? Because
Yeah.
there's only so many hours left in the dough. So when you are going to start watching they're not as helpful as Becky's though. Head on over to Veronica. We'll shamelessly self-promote Veronica as well. Head on over to her. I do pay a housekeeper, but once a month. COVID has really been strange though. But I feel guilty for outsourcing my business. And I think this is a good guide into talking about outsourcing, because I hear so many people talk about that. And I'm a huge proponent about it. And I have full disclosure on my channel. I pay a lister. I am not doing it all either. And I'm a terrible lister. I don't like it. And I'm really not very good at it. And so I pay someone else to do it. But I feel bad. And you don't have to do it all. That's what businesses are. You get, any business is building people underneath them to do a job that does it better than them, or, that's what a business is. So, what's your kind of perspective on outsourcing? And
yeah, I mean, I think that like, even though I can feel myself getting faster, there's still only so much you can get done, right? So even I've tried a lot of different things. So like with sharing my Poshmark closet, for example, like I actually paid one of my students to share my closet, and she would just sit there on her phone, like listening to a podcast at night, and she would share it once a day for me. And then she went to college, and she's like, I think I have to get like a more grown-up job now. It's like, okay. And then so now I have a VA because that's like the first thing I was like, I need to let go of this, because one, it's like killing my hands. Like I had so much pain in my hands. I had a student do some photography for me of clothes. And it's hard because when you're outsourcing that kind of stuff, kind of like what Sarah was saying, especially if you have a very like perfectionist mindset, it's hard because they're going to make mistakes at the beginning, So like my student, like sometimes she wouldn't catch flaws. It would get listed using her pictures, and then I would go to ship it, and I'd be like, oh, like there's a huge, there'd be things like that. And like she was amazing. She was like doing her best, but it's like everyone makes those kinds of mistakes when they start. So there is that time investment of like properly training the person. Otherwise, it does seem like it's not worth the effort or like the work or whatever, I recently have started outsourcing even like editing of my YouTube videos. I have a student who she graduated last year, and she would make these vlog videos for like when my acapella group went on competition and stuff. And they were so fun and like just so well made. And she like has aspirations to go into music and start her own YouTube channel and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, hey, like, I feel like we could figure out a way where you can do something and make money doing it that it'll help you for your future, but selfishly it'll help me too. And so we're still working out the kinks. She's edited, I think, one of my videos so far, and she's like but just kind of getting the footage back and forth to each other has been really difficult. But like even that, I'm outsourcing that because it takes up a lot of my time. Like the editing piece, I actually do enjoy it, but it just eats up a lot of my time. And then I'm even going to try actually outsourcing my shipping and like inventorying. So there's a company called eBliss, and I had them on my channel last week.
They're local here. Yeah. Like, I know them in person. They're local here. They've been on my channel.
Oh, yeah. So I'm trying them out, and I'm like getting ready to ship out a bunch of stuff to them. And what they do is they will keep it in their warehouse and store it. And as things sell, they ship it out for you. So you save and reclaim that time of your life back. Because, the bigger you grow too, the more shipping there is to get done. And it eats up so much time. And so
and space too, right? So if you're working from your house, you have your living room back, as you mentioned before. If you're working from your house, I think I know them here. So I know that they had been working on the projects for a while. And when they finally released it, they wanted me to do the beta, and the pandemic had hit, and the home remote learning. And I was like, I just can't, but I think it's a great idea. So I'm interested to see how it works for you.
Yeah.
Other people. I think it's good too for the people who like ThreadUp used to be kind of like that, right? Where you would send it and you would, they would store it for you. They don't, eBliss doesn't do the listings, but if you are if you just like this shopping, I think it's a great solution, right? Because they do all of that other kind of stuff. I do want to touch on this. Allie Dell is saying, I just can't justify paying people to do anything that cuts into my cash. I'm not going to speak to the control issues because that's a whole different thing. You got to mentally wrap around that. But as far as money goes, and I talk about this in the course that I do, but when it's time to figure out when you outsource, if you can pay someone to do something that you make more at, I didn't come out right. If you can pay someone, your time is worth a certain amount of money. And so if your time is worth $50 an hour and you can pay someone $15 an hour, then when that extra hour you're getting back, you can be doing, when Becky's more YouTube videos or sourcing more, or if you're being more diligent and using that time to increase your revenue, you're actually making more money. And so, but I totally get it because it is hard to pay out. But like for me, I pay a lister and I don't love paying for it, but it allows me to do YouTube and my digital products. Otherwise, I would be spending 8 hours a week just listing and not be able to do YouTube, right? So you kind of have to think about it in that perspective. And happiness. I told my husband today, I'm working on getting a second VA set up. And I was like, if he can do some of the mundane things that I just don't like doing, data entry, certain things, it's not necessarily going to make me more money, but it's going to make me happier. And that hour a week that I spend doing data entry, I can spend with my children.
Mm-hmm.
That's worth the $10 an hour that I am paying him to do it, right? Your quality of life as well.
Yeah. A lot of great questions too about eBliss. I'll say this. So it's a really complex beast that they've created over there. And I had a million questions for them because I was like, first of all, this sounds too good to be true. I was like, there's gotta be something wrong with it, but like Sarah said, like they went through a whole beta process. They've like worked on it for like 2.5 years. And like, if you're even interested, they don't even take everyone on. Like if you're interested, I would just say, reach out to them. You can let them know I sent you and they'll actually like talk with you to make sure that it's a good fit, because they recognize like it's not really for everyone, but if it would actually work for you, then of course, they'd like to bring more people on, but you can cross list. Cause that was one of the first things I asked. I was like, I saw on a bunch of different platforms, their primary focus is eBay sellers. And I was like, but what if something sells on Poshmark and it's at your warehouse? Cause I want to have, my items on all the different platforms. And they're like, we can ship it out. If it's a Poshmark sale, we can ship it out. You just send us the label. And then someone said, can you share the cost of eBliss? I was just going to try to look it up. I don't remember. It's like, I will, you could DM me later. I have like all the documents and stuff. Basically they describe it as like Amazon FBA for resellers. It's like you buy the stuff, you send it to them. You do pay a little bit of like a storage fee, kind of the way that you do with Amazon, and then they ship it off for you. So yeah.
When I was looking, and I did post, I haven't watched the video with you guys, but I did post the link to that down below because I'm sure some of these questions are asked in that video. And I will put eBliss's info in this video as well. But when I was looking, and I don't know how much they changed. So when I was looking to do it with them for the beta testing, it was like a storage fee, and it was, it was like under 50 cents an item, I think, for a storage fee. But then you pay it every month, right? So every month that your stuff sits, right? So you want to encourage sales, but every month, so you're paying for storage, but then you don't have to buy a storage unit or take up space in your house. And then you paid between $1 or $2, maybe, if I remember right, somewhere around there, when they shipped an item. So it was, it was a little bit, but it wasn't anything huge. It made more sense to me from in talking to them if you had like higher price items. Yes. If you're selling items for $5,
it's not worth it.
Yeah, you're going to lose. But if you're selling things for $30, you take a couple bucks out and now you get all your time back from shipping.
Yes.
And you can scale. You don't have to stay constrained to, I can only have 300 items, right? Like I've been to their warehouse. It's huge. And they got a second place, or they're getting a second place.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And Horton and Painting said, I just opened a storage unit because I outgrew my space. So that's where too, like, that's what people say about like eBay stores. Like, when should I level up to an eBay store? Like, you have to do the math of like, if you're paying for listings, at what point does it make sense to upgrade? And it's kind of the same thing, right? Like if you're paying for a storage unit and you still have to take the time to go there, pick up the items, like do the shipping yourself, like Sarah said, like kind of figure out how much your time is worth. Maybe it makes more sense. I'm not here to do a commercial for eBliss, but I'm just here to say like that is one way I'm trying to outsource, because shipping is one of those things like you have to do it. And I am one of those people, like I try to ship same day if I can. And it just has to get done. And it really, the more you sell, it's great, but that means you're spending that much more time shipping. And so, and like inventory wise, like I'm getting better at it, but that's like what their wheelhouse is like keeping track of my stuff and taking care of it. Whereas like I'm over here losing stuff left and right. So it's like, if I can just send it to them and forget about it and like have it listed, like not only am I getting some of my time back, but I'm like getting some of my sanity back too. Cause it's just, I know myself well enough to know like, that's just not one of my strengths, so.
And if it's something that you don't like, I don't mind the shipping.
Yeah.
However, I have gotten to a point that I don't want to grow anymore.
Mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend any more time shipping. I don't mind. I'm at about 10 sales a day and I'm like, that's fine. 30 minutes I can handle. Any
Mm-hmm.
more than that, I start to dread doing it. And then I also start to like misplace items or like do the wrong thing. Because I do it with kids too, right? So like 30 minutes, mostly I can do it without a kid interrupting. But any longer than that, it starts to get hard too.
Yeah.
Sandra's asking, how many hours did you spend in the day before you got a VA?
I mean, I was reluctant, I think I did everything by myself for like a year and a half to 2 years before. And that's because I'm super cheap and frugal, like we were talking about before. Like, I mean, I still don't have like an actual like camera. Like I still just use my phone for everything, like YouTube, like actually, no, that's a lie. I just got a GoPro not too long ago, like a month ago, but that's like into my almost third year. How like I've been on YouTube for like 2 years now, and I'm just now getting a GoPro, so it takes a really long time for me to be like, okay, like I need to do this. I think really for me, it wasn't so much like the hours I was spending. It was more like the pain in my hands. I was giving myself like carpal tunnel or something just from like being on my dumb phone, like sharing and, listing and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, it has to go. And I've like figured out different things too, so I don't have to be like on my phone as much. Like I'm, using my laptop more, like just using my phone to draft and things like that. But I think it was more like when I was like, this is messing with my health and like just my ability to like use my hands properly. That's when I was like, I need to do something about this. So.
Yeah, it's so wild that the amount of sharing is still a thing. And although I was reading on their terms and services, they have changed their wording around bots. They haven't used to strongly say you cannot. And I don't remember the exact wording now, but now it's very Poshmarky where they won't say one way or the other, very wish-washy, but it's not as strong as it used to be.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how that turns, but it's just wild to me that the amount of sharing that you have to do to be able to make sales.
Yeah.
And, I have 800 items. Even sharing my closet once, it takes hours. It's just wild. So let's move into, I think that's good transition into other platforms that you're on. So you started on Poshmark, and then you mentioned at the beginning, but for those who have popped on since then, if you want to say what other platforms you're on now, and maybe talk a little bit about when you moved over to those platforms and how they're doing and your thought process behind that.
Yeah. So I started on Poshmark. I was exclusive to that for a while. And then I think I started dabbling in Mercari a little bit because people said it was pretty easy. And it was. I wasn't, and I still am not experiencing a lot of sales over there. I know some people love it and they, get like daily sales. It's like, I'll get a few a week, maybe if I'm lucky. But then I finally just was like, you know what? I'm going to do eBay. Like I'm just going to do it because everyone is saying like, that's where you have to go. So I've been on eBay now, and I'm so happy that I finally just took the leap. I actually did try like Amazon FBA for a little bit. I did not enjoy it. Like I just did not find joy in doing it. It wasn't fun for me. And so I did that for like, I don't know, maybe like half a year to like a year. And then I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to do it anymore. And then I do like cross list to like Kitizen. I started my own Shopify store. Yeah, I think and I did like the ThreadUp thing. I still am doing it. I mean, I'm still trying to like figure out how I want to utilize them. So I'm still doing ThreadUp as well. It's a lot. And everyone's like, you should do Facebook Marketplace and you should do Depop. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah.
You use a cross-listing software?
I do. I use List Perfectly. I love it. And that's the only reason why I've been able to even try out these other platforms and kind of grow and scale over there as well, is because, List Perfectly just makes it so easy and it's fast. So,
Yeah, and it can manage. I mean, I pay a lister now because even the
okay.
time list I didn't
Yeah.
have. But it was nice because it manages. And that's the only reason I'm only on Poshmark and eBay. And you hear social media, a Facebook marketplace is all the rage now. For a
Yeah.
while it was Macari, and then it was ThreadUp. And I cancel 1 to 2 items on Poshmark a week because I forget to. No, it's
Mm,
not because I forget. It's because I go to delete them, and you can't search your own closet. And oftentimes it's a brand that they don't have. And so I'm
yeah.
in the middle of trying to delete it, and then a kid walks in and I forget.
You just forget it. Yeah.
And so I can't go anywhere else until my life kind of calms down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think List Perfectly, and if you have some of the other ones, it kind of, if you keep it in there, right, it helps
Yeah.
manage as well. How's Shopify going for you? It's interesting because you have a big following. So I think it'll be different than people without a following, because you have to do all the marketing, right? Like you don't have eBay's billion sellers and stuff. So how's that going for you?
Shopify is hard, for the reasons that you stated, but also it's just not an intuitive platform at all. Like, for example, I think it was actually Melissa, she's in the chat. And I think she like left a comment saying like, I checked out your Shopify store, loved it. I wish you could filter by size. And I was like, yeah, that would be nice, right? So I'm like looking up all of these things, like trying to figure out like, how do I do it so that shoppers can filter by size, and you have to like buy extra extensions and like other, and I'm like, what? Like that just seems like such a basic foundational piece of having an online store. So it's just not very intuitive the way that it's set up. I used Kristen from Voyages of Verbs course to like get me started, and if it had not been for that, like I would not have been able to figure it out. um I also like am having a hard time with figuring out how to get it connected with Google, because even with like Poshmark, if someone's searching for something, people will sometimes find your item just from searching on Google if your SEO on that item is good enough, and you can do that with Shopify. But like I'm just having the hardest time with that, so it's just not very intuitive. That being said, I think one thing that I have gotten better at doing over the course of the years of being on YouTube and stuff is just kind of like, nonchalantly like throwing it out there in like most videos, like talking about it in like on Instagram here and there. So, it's nice. Like when I have sales over there, it's like really great. And it's especially great because like right now, especially like they're only coming from, people either on Instagram or YouTube. And it's just really sweet that they would want to support me in that way. So, but yeah, it's crazy. But I just wanted that space too, in case I did some other things and just wanted to have a space where I could, do those things and promote those things and sell those things. And so, yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah. And I have a WordPress site, which is not as intuitive at all as Shopify. And I have my digital products on there, and I've contemplated putting my stuff, and I'm like, I'm not a web designer. I'm not, you have to buy for extensions, and then the extensions change.
Yeah.
I'm not in the business, nor do I want to be in the business of managing a website.
Yeah.
I'll do my 4 digital projects, because those, like, nothing changes and they just always stay there. I don't have to restock and everything. And the only reason I did WordPress is because my brother is like a WordPress guru. So I have like, IT support. But I will gladly pay, 13 to 20% fees for eBay Poshmark to manage all of that. Especially because like, you have a bigger following, and my following's not as big as you and other people that don't have a following. I don't think that you can really, or you're spending a lot of time getting people to that store, right? Poshmark and eBay, Kittizens, all of these places spend millions of dollars a year getting people to your information, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have as big of fees, but you're paying for that in time and learning, right? So I was just interested to see how it was
Yeah.
for you. Sorry, I thought we had a question. I thought we had a question, but I think we're good. No, okay, I think we're good. Okay, so I want to get into a little bit of YouTube, because that is also a money driver for you now. And a decent one too. I watched your review, how much I made. And it's very hard when you're starting YouTube because you have to put so much time. It's a huge learning curve,
Yeah.
um, to not make money for, depending on how long it takes you, it can be a very long time that you are working without getting paid. But you are to the point where you are getting paid, and a decent amount. So tell us all of your secrets. No, but what do you think? So you've been on for about 2 years.
Yeah, I think I started in 2019, February of 2019. So yeah, like I like hit my 2-year anniversary this month. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And so what do you think has contributed to you growing and you, because I mean, you're up there. If you look at a Poshmark, I mean, if you search Poshmark, like Becky is one of the big Poshmark YouTubers.
Oh, that's good to know.
It is.
Um,
It's exciting.
yeah. No, I think so. That was another thing. I remember like kind of starting the conversation with my husband of like, this is something I kind of want to do. And he's like, why? He's like, you already have so much on your plate. Like, why? Um, but I think when I started, I told myself, I'm going to, no matter what, upload at least a video a week, like no matter what. And I just kind of like put that on myself. And when I started, the reason I started is because I had a friend who was local to me, and like I never do this on my Instagram, but for whatever reason on my Instagram, I like had a post and I tagged my town that I live in. And I never tag my town, but for whatever reason, I think it was one of those like about me type of posts on Instagram. And my friend, who is a videographer, like a freelance videographer, he was just kind of scrolling through that tag of our town, and he found my Instagram, and like he knew my personal Instagram, but he was like, "What is this life that you live? Like, what is this?" And we were just kind of like chatting in the DMs, and he's like, "Wow, you've like really built a presence for yourself here." I think I had like maybe like 6,000-7,000 Instagram followers at that time, and I was like, yeah, like, I don't know. I kind of want to like start a YouTube channel, but I'm too scared. And I want to wait till I hit like 10,000 followers. And he's like, no, like Instagram followers do not necessarily convert to YouTube followers.
Mhm.
They're their own community. Like if you want to do it, like you just got to do it now. And he really gave me the push that I needed. And he actually was like, I'm all about like being in the business of helping people help themselves. And he's like, I'll come over, I'll film, I'll edit, like I'll do everything to start you off. And so like people ask me all the time, like, how did you make your like little intro for your videos? And I was like, I didn't make that. Like,
It's so cute. Yeah.
I don't know how to do any of that. Like he just came over one day, we like did all that stuff. He's like, okay, now do this, now do that. And then he just like pieced it all together. This song is one of my former students who released like an EP. And I was like, can I use this song for my YouTube videos? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so, it just kind of all fell into place. After like the first 3 videos though, he was like, I'm too busy. Like I can't do this anymore. And I was like, no, sir. Like, I don't know how to do any of this. Like, I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to, whatever. But I just was left to like fend for myself and figure it out. And he had already set the bar so friggin' high. And so I just remember that first week I was on my own. I'm just sitting there like watching all these videos. I'm just like messing around with iMovie. But I had made that promise to myself, like I'm gonna get out at least 1 video a week. So I did it. There was a huge just like drop in quality from like the last video that he did, like my second or third video, to like, the video that I have now, or like my first video that I had to edit. But yeah, I think it was only because I just like told myself I was going to do it. But I think it's been that consistency of like just showing up for my audience, even when my audience was like, 40 people strong in the beginning, like just showing up consistently. And yeah, I mean, I always felt like I'm not going to be able to grow this thing because what I'm doing is not super respectable. Like I'm just part-time. Like I don't really have these crazy sales, like, and I was just like, I don't really have very much to offer, but I'll just try to be as honest about what's going on as I can. And I think to some degree, that's what the reseller community needed at that time, because the only kinds of people who were on YouTube were the ones who were killing it on a weekly basis. And it's like cool and inspiring to watch every once in a while, but also you want to watch someone who's like, I sold 8 things. Like, and it's awesome. Like, I have $40 in the bank because of those 8 things, you know, and it was like, that was some of my videos in the beginning. Like, it just wasn't selling very much. I was making lots of mistakes. I still do. And that's probably the number one comment I get on my videos is just like, thank you. Basically, it's thank you for not killing it all the time, because I don't either. And I like to know that I'm in good company, you know? Yeah.
So you started, because I think the aspect of YouTube also can be very intimidating for some people, like the video editing,
yeah.
it's learning a new platform and how it works. And if you're, you know, an older-ish generation like myself, I didn't have a YouTube account until I knew it. You know, I was very much like you, like I would watch a YouTube video if someone sent me a link.
Yeah.
But like I never watched. My husband's a huge YouTuber. So he tries to tell me, you know, tricks, and I'm like, okay, we're different genres. Like he watches people play video games and stuff.
Yeah.
But he thinks, you know, he's a YouTube pro. So, you know, just jumping in and getting started and doing it. But from the technical aspect, I think as resellers, we already know SEO a little bit. So I think that does help us, but I've noticed it is a little bit different. And it is hard to start gaining traction, especially, you know, in the beginning, like you mentioned, you have like 50 followers and you're like, I got to come strong with this video for 3 people to watch. And so how did you kind of you told yourself, you know, once a week, but how did you really stay motivated? And then like learning the technical aspects and trying to figure all that out.
So, you know, like I said earlier, when I get into something, like I'm in 100%. And when I had this like little idea in my head of like, maybe YouTube is something I want to try. I mean, I had been thinking that for like months before I even, you know, sat down to film my first video. And so in those months coming up to film my first video, I was watching so much content on how to have a YouTube channel, right? So like, there are some really great channels out there who like all they do is talk about like how to, you know, start your YouTube channel, how to grow your YouTube channel. And so there's all this like jargon and vocabulary kind of like swimming around in my brain. And so when it came time to like do the dang thing, I felt like ready, you know, like I felt like, okay, I kind of feel like I know what's up. And so even when it came to, like making the thumbnails or like putting like the like figuring out the title of the video and what to put in the description, like I felt like I went in with kind of a plan of attack because I had watched and learned as much as I could before I went in. And even when I started, I mean, I was still just like, that was primarily what I was spending my focus on because that's what I wanted to grow at that time, you know? And so I think like and there's so much knowledge out there, like there's so much information. So the more you can equip yourself, and that goes for reselling too, right? Like you're going to get better the more you really immerse yourself into it. And so I just went for it. Like that's what I spent my time doing. And with the video editing, I mean, luckily I had a little bit of experience, very amateurish, like with editing sound, like audio stuff. So like I would, you know, record like my choirs, for example. And so when I do any sort of editing, I'm actually always looking at the sound files. Like I'm always looking at the audio waves.
Never looked at that.
I depend on that because that's how I know where to make my cuts. Like that's how, so it's just like very, and I'm very like, sensitive to sound. So like if I watch someone's video and their voice is clipping the entire time, I'm like, I can't watch any more of this because I've just been trained to like think really like to listen carefully for those kinds of things. So I do have like that kind of training in a sense because I'm a musician and I've grown up that way and I've like recorded, you know, my choirs and stuff. So I know how to look at least at like the sound waves of a video and use that to edit. But yeah, you can't really learn how to do anything until you just do it. I mean, at the end of the day, like my friend saying like, peace out, I got to go. Like, I don't have time for this anymore. It was like the best thing he could have done for me because he made me get started. And then he was like, if you want this bad enough, you just got to figure it out and do it on your own, you know?
Yeah, give you a little taste of it. So I'm like the opposite where I just started. Like you watched all these videos and now I'm almost a year and a half in and I'm like, maybe I should like learn how to do a YouTube channel. So I'm just now starting to watch YouTube videos on like SEO and trying to figure all that out and looking at analytics. So I love, and with YouTube and reselling, like you can totally do it so many different ways and still be successful. And that's what a lot of people in the chat are saying, that they really value your content because you are so forthcoming and you are, you have your good days and your bad days. And you're not always killing it and you're not always pretending that you're killing it. Right. And so I think that definitely is why people have gotten to that. Is there a couple, because you mentioned you watch some YouTubers. I don't know if you still watch them channel, but is there YouTube channel, like to grow your YouTube, not reseller channels, ones, because I find it's very overwhelming. Like there's so much out there.
My favorites are Think Media. And the guy who's basically in charge of Think Media, his name's Sean Cannell. He has some other channels too. Like he has Think Marketing now as well. And he also has one called Video Influencers with his friend, Benji, I want to say Travis, but anyway. So I watch a lot of them. Vanessa Lau, she's younger. She has a lot of really great content about YouTube, and Sunny Lenarduzzi. Those are my favorites. But like Catherine Manning from the Content Bug, she is good too. She's not as like tutorial-ish, but it's more like, look what I'm doing. Like, this is how much money I've made. Like, it's kind of cool to just kind of watch her journey. And then I know a lot of people really like Nick Nimmin and Roberto Blake. I haven't really watched their content as much, but the little bit that I have watched, it's been really good. So I would stick to like kind of those big names. Like they really know what they're talking about. And I really like Think Media because I feel like they're good at keeping it pretty simple and remembering that a lot of people watching have like never done any of this before, so they will talk you through it like you're 5 years old.
And I Think Media is the one that I have watched. And then there's another female, I just found her last week. I can't remember her name, but she shows a lot of like the analytics because I like numbers, obviously. And so I want to understand those analytics better to be able to grow my channel. And I feel like a lot of times people are like, okay, look at your impressions. And I'm like, show me how to look at my impressions. Show me what it means. I like want to dig a little bit deeper into it. And so she shows a lot of her like analytics where I find not a lot of people show that stuff. But I can't remember her name.
Manning. Is she like blonde? She's younger.
Yes, Manning. Yes.
Yeah, she is very analytical, and that's like that's what she loves too, is like, let's look at the analytics of this video and why it, took off and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, she's really good at that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I also I find with social media that I go down rabbit holes, and then I have like a list of, I just watched 3 YouTube videos and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have 52 things that I need to change on my So I have to like limit myself. I'm like, one YouTube video, I learn one new thing, I implement that. And once that is, practice for me, then I will move. And it's the same for reselling too. Like I change one thing so it's not overwhelming, because otherwise it's just too much advice for me. What's the keyword for Hawaiian pink? Oh, I think this is a side conversation. Sorry, I just got question marks. I think that's a side conversation. Let's see. I thought we did have a question though, but I think we might be okay. We are getting to the end. So if you guys do have questions before we end up, let me know. Yeah, we're talking about arthritis is killing me. And people Think Media. Yeah, okay. I think yes. There was a side conversation. Okay. I think we're caught up. So we are towards the end. I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, Becky, and I really do.
Oh my gosh, no. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. Yeah, I mean, I guess like if there's one thing I would want to like leave people with, or like one idea is when I started both reselling and YouTube, I did not do it thinking that I would be able to make as much money as I have on those platforms. I just kind of, I just went in for like whatever different reasons. But I feel like one of my friends, actually, he's also a YouTuber, and he has a much, much bigger channel than me, even though we started around the same time. But we'll keep talking. We talk a lot still. And he's always encouraging me, and he's always telling me he's like, I don't think you are, but he's like, if you ever were thinking about giving up, like, I just want to keep encouraging you to keep going. And he's like, YouTube has changed my life. Like, he's like, I don't have to work this crazy dead end job anymore. And he's like telling me how much he made in the month of December. And I was like, oh my God, if you really want to earn an income in that way, or with reselling as well, like, it's doable, but you have to just like put your head down and like do the work, you know? And I think for me, like that's one thing I'm good at is I don't waste too much time asking myself like, do I know enough? Like, should I, you know, or like, am I going to mess it up? Like, oh, this isn't perfect. Like, da da da. I'm just kind of like, let's just go. Like, let's just do this. And that's where my husband and I are so different. Like, he's very like, hold on, like pulling the reins. And I'm like, no. Like, we just got to start. We just got to do it. And like, I don't know. I just feel like if you want it bad enough, and if you spend the time to learn what it takes and like fill yourself with knowledge, not just like I'm going to do it, but like continue to grow in knowledge so that you do it better every day. I guess I just want to leave you with the idea of like just keep going, because it is really shocking to me. Like my husband and I will talk sometimes, because I feel like before I started reselling and doing YouTube, we really had moments when we were like, how are we going to pay our bills this month? Like, you know, it was just very like, you know, things like just random expenses would come up with like, you know, my son's health, or I don't know, just different things. And we'd be like, how are we supposed to pay the hospital for that? Or, you know, whatever. And it feels crazy to not have those kinds of conversations anymore, you know? And so it really has changed my life. And that's not why I started those things, you know, like I did not start out, I just wanted to get rid of clothes and make more than like $2 on the top. But, yeah, I don't know. Just, you know, just continue to fill yourself with knowledge, surround yourself with the right people, like surround yourself with people who want you to succeed and will encourage you. And, but yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
Well, everyone in the chat absolutely loves you. So please don't quit, because they all really love you, myself included. I think you definitely bring a different aspect to the YouTube world for resellers, and it's much needed and a breath of fresh air for sure. And I think you noted too on surrounding yourself with positive people. I think that's a big one. Positive people that are going to help uplift you, because you are going to have your bad days. And if it's just you by yourself, they don't necessarily have to be resellers. It could be your spouse, or, you know, but just someone to kind of, because we don't have coworkers, right? Like you find me, this is part of the reason I do my Monday calls too, is just to talk to other resellers. But finding those right people for you, everyone's are going to be different, but finding those right people that are going to uplift you and not bring added stress to your life, but provide, you know, helpful things into your life as well. Well, that's it. We are at 7:00. I think I want to make sure that we didn't miss any questions. If you guys do have questions, Becky's information is down below. I am going to put eBliss's will be in the live comments. So I put the video to Becky's interview with them in the comments, and then I will put eBliss's information down below as well. I've interviewed them, and like I said, I know them personally, so I feel confident. I don't promote things that I don't know, but I know them, and so I will put their information down below as well. And thank you guys so much for joining. This is a weekly call. Anyone is welcome to join. Sometimes we have big special guests like BeckyPark, but oftentimes it's just other, you know, resellers. You don't have to have a big social media following to come on. It's open to anyone who wants to come. So if you would like to join me on a Monday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard, send me a DM. It's very casual talk, and we just kind of hang out. If you don't feel comfortable on camera, definitely feel free to join me in the comments every Monday for, you know, it's kind of my reseller staff meeting to get Monday started for the week. So thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you next week.
Bye.